Test 1, 2, 3.
Before we start the meeting, if everyone could shut off their electronic devices.
Good afternoon. The meeting for the Revere Zoning Board of Appeals will now come to order. Roll call.
Mr. Pacilli? Mr. D'Angelo? Mr. Lopes? Mr. Mazzoni? Mr. Tucker?
Present.
Quorum is present.
If we could rise and salute the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First application before the board is application A-1904, special permit application of Christine McCarron, 450 Revere Beach Boulevard, Revere, requesting a 6-month extension of City of Revere Zoning Board of Appeals variance A-1704 to enable the appellant to further alter and extend a pre-existing non-conforming structure to convert a single-family dwelling to a two-family dwelling on Lot 4 at 450 Revere Beach Boulevard, Revere. We have a new plan submitted to the board, members.
Okay, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Christine McCarron, 450 Revere Beach Boulevard, Revere. I apologize for getting this plan to you so late. The engineer was away and then I was away. But it should be hopefully much more clear on this plan that the location of the existing dwelling is also the location of the proposed dwelling, which is 100% on Lot 4. And it does show on the plan the parking.
Okay, so for clarification, we do have the new plan that's been stamped, and it does show Lot 4. So seeing that this is a continuation of a public hearing, I'll ask if there's any proponents. Anyone in favor? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any members wish to speak? Okay. Do we want to take these up individually? I'd ask for a roll call. Okay.
Question comes on granting the relief requested, which in this case is a 6-month extension of the original permit. Mr. Pacilli? Yes. Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Lopes? Yes. Mr. Mazzoni? Yes. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Yes, this is granted for a 6-month extension. The next application before is application A-1913. This is the application of Abdul Hamid Berkeran, 33 Cambridge Street, requesting a parking variance and parking in the front yard to enable the appellant to convert a single-family dwelling to a two-family dwelling at 33 Cambridge Street, Revere.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Joseph Cottogio, 1 Sprague Street, Revere, representing the applicant. At our previous meeting, we talked about some options that we had hoped were available to us for this 4th parking space in order to allow the applicant to convert this single family into a two-family. We did go back to site plan review, met with the members there, made our proposal to have 4 spaces across, the only other available on-site spot for the 4th location. At first, they indicated their opposition, their preference that spot not be removed from the street spot and put into an on-site spot, given the fact that it may or may not be needed for the tenant. And then they indicated that there was a telephone pole that was restricting free access to that 4th spot, making it impossible for us to make that application to begin with. So we are forced to go with the application that is before you, which is requesting the variance for 1 parking space. In light of that application, I would reiterate that, again, the proposed unit that would be constructed in the basement would be a single bedroom, likely not to need more than 1 parking space, although we understand it is required. We also understand that there is a letter from the ward councilor indicating his policy on parking variances for the area. I would speak to that by saying that it is an indication of his policy, which is also the policy of the city, which is why the board is here, that the policy of the city is to require 2 spaces per unit. We are unable to meet that, so we are required to come before you and ask you that you look at this on an individual basis. We have a family that has raising children that are in the school system that are soon going to be going to college. Financial obligations are going to increase as does with every family. They have an opportunity to maximize the use of their home without expanding the home in any way or encroaching in any area on the neighborhood. So we would ask that this board weigh the equities of this application. I don't believe there is any individual neighbor opposition. There certainly hasn't been anybody that's contacted my office. I don't believe anybody has contacted the city clerk's office in opposition. So we would ask that the board look favorably on this application based on the equity of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing that this is a continuation of a public hearing, I'll ask if there's any proponents. Anyone in favor? Please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Flora Lindbergh, 29 Cambridge Street.
Okay?
Okay.
And,
I've been his neighbor for 12 years. I have no problem with it.
okay, and you're on what side is in the butter?
I would be facing the house to the right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other proponents?
Letty Genovich, and it's 41 Cambridge Street, and I'm a couple of doors down from Hammy. And he's a very nice guy, and here to support him.
Okay, thank you. Any other proponents? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. For the record, the ward councilor did state that he is opposed to this variance. Any members wish to speak?
Are they going to modify this variance to meet what they just talked about? For the 1 parking space?
They're asking for the variance of the 1 parking space.
I understand.
It cannot
Is it going to be
happen.
in writing?
Pardon me?
Is it going to be in writing?
It's already in that they're asking for the variance. They're asking for a variance for the parking, front yard parking with 2-family dwelling.
If I can
It would be
clarify,
for the 2 spaces.
if I can clarify, there are 3 spaces on site right now. In order to have a 2-family, the city requires 4 spaces. We're unable to provide that 4th space, so we're looking for a variance for a single space, and that's what the application is, for a single space variance.
However, the site plan review, as you can tell, stated that they couldn't have that. For one, they're opposed to front yard parking, and also that there is a telephone pole or a utility pole in the way. So, hearing no other members wish to speak, I'd ask for a roll call.
The question now comes on granting the relief requested by the appellant. Mr. Bacilli?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. D'Angelo?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Lopes?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Mazzoni?
No.
No. Mr. Tucker?
No.
No. Insufficient. The application is denied. The next application before the board is application A1916. This is the application of Almedin Kalpour, 48 Conan Street, Revere, requesting a minimum parking space dimension variance to enable the appellant to convert a single-family dwelling to a 2-family dwelling at 48 Conan Street, Revere.
Could the applicant press the button? State your name and address for the record, please.
Almedin Kalpour, 48 Conan Street.
Okay. I am looking for the certified plot plan.
Here you go there.
Do you have a certified plot plan on file? Okay, I do have it. It was stuck in the middle. Okay, do you wish to elaborate on this, or it speaks for itself?
Speak with that the 4 inches off from chimney, fourth place. That's why I came here.
Okay, so the fourth space is not 9 by 18 by no means.
18 by 8.6.8, but you take it if you want to put fence, because now it's sharing driveway. You want to put fence and make it 3-4 inches more inside. That means now it's 8.4, I think we put there.
Okay, so 8.4.
Yeah, by 18.
Okay. Seeing that this is a public hearing, I'll ask if there's any proponents, anyone in favor. And is the ward councillor in this, who's your ward councillor in this area? Okay, have you met, no, I think it's Arthur. It's one of those things, right? Is John here? Did John just leave? John Powers?
It's not Ward 5, he's on Conant Street, right?
Yeah, I think it's Conant Street. Have you spoken to the ward councillor
No,
there?
I just spoke with mayor. I spoke with mayor's office, nobody else, and Benny.
Okay. Seeing that it's a public hearing, are there any opponents? Anyone opposed? I respectfully would ask that this be continued because we don't have any direction from the ward councillor as to if he has received any calls. It's normally a custom to go to the ward councillor who represents that area for any changes. So I would ask that we continue this till our next meeting, which would be, our next meeting would be the June 19th or the 26th. What do you prefer, John? The 26th? June 26th at 4 o'clock. If you want to ask, you can press it and.
Parking space number 4, is that legal size or is it short?
It's 8.4.
On the drawing,
8.4.
8 foot 4.
8 is 8, but we put it 4 inches inside because if I want to put more, put fence, or somebody else want to put fence, my neighbor, we put it more inside. Now
There's
it's-
enough room to park a full-size car there?
Yeah, I can put 4, yeah.
Okay.
Rather than 9 by 18, it's 8.4 by 18. Yeah. Yep. That's why it's.
I got a question. I drove by there today, where the car is parked now. So the other 2 spots would be behind the house?
No, all of them, one side of house, second, another side house.
Oh, you have both sides of the
Yeah, both
house?
sides. Other side can put 4 cars, can put behind house 10 cars. But city doesn't allow me behind house because all is parking. Ask me for one side too, other side too. And I have just telling you 3-4 inches difference for chimney, that's why not allowed me.
But
That's why I came here.
the side on the right here, that would be tandem parking
There's tandem parking on each side.
on each side?
4 spaces, yeah.
Okay. I know this side here, even if it's tandem parking, there's a little maneuver so you can get out without encroaching on your neighbors. Is that a shared driveway?
Shared.
It's a shared driveway.
You can use absolutely shared driveway because having enough space. Because that's the area, first car, third car.
Okay, could you step to the microphone so that you're on? Just,
Third car is 10 feet, is over there, more than 10 feet.
Right here.
Yes. Fourth car is, telling you, missing only 3-4 inches from chimney because I cannot put it from chimney.
From the chimney?
Yeah.
But how far would it be before you encroached on your neighbor's driveway?
What do you mean how far?
the lot line is 8.4.
Is 8.4?
It's 8.4.
Okay.
That's my lot, I don't have nothing with neighbor. But we're sharing right now, I'm putting his car, putting my driveway, that's more, I don't care for that. But tomorrow, if somebody else buying that house, or I selling my house, I want to put fence, that's why I move a little bit more inside, in my side.
So just this side would be tandem parking, 1 and 2?
Nope, both sides.
You have in both sides.
It's on the
I
plan,
cannot
they're
understand,
both
you have in
sides.
pictures through there.
And you have the right to put the fence up, so 8.4.
If I want to, but I don't want to,
Okay,
still.
alrighty. Well, one moment, because I am getting a response from the ward council that he is against this. He's opposed to this variance. He just now, Arthur? So there is a motion on the floor that has to be answered. A motion to continue was already asked, so we have to go for a roll call. But the
Question
ward
comes-
councilor has reported that he is against it.
Question comes on the continuance to June 26. Mr. Bacilli? Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Lopes?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Mazzoni?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Yes, this is continued to June 26th at 4 PM.
Okay, so you would come back, but I had suggested you at least talk to the ward council in the meantime.
Who is that guy?
Arthur Ganasso. You can go down to city clerk's office and get the information for the ward councilor.
Okay.
Okay?
Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
The next application before the board is application A 1917, the application of KQ and Sons LLC, 62 Golden Hills Road, Saugus, requesting the following variances: tandem parking spaces, minimum parking space width to allow less than 6-foot buffer zone between multifamily off-street parking area which abuts a residential use, and to allow less than 7 feet of clearance from floor to ceiling in a parking garage for multi-level parking spaces to enable the appellant to raise 3 existing 2-story dwellings to construct a 6-story 45-unit condominium at 463 Revere Beach Boulevard, Revere.
For the record, there has been a request to withdraw without prejudice. However, seeing that it's a public hearing, if someone wishes to get up and speak, they have the option to do so, but they want to withdraw without prejudice, so we will let them speak and then move on from there.
Mr. Chairman,
Good
members of the
afternoon.
board, Daniel Rizzo, 35 Rowan Road. I appreciate the latitude, Mr. Chairman. I understand that they are looking to withdraw, but again, this is an issue that's been very near and dear to me over the last several years, and I just wanted to, first off, I understand the application is going to be withdrawn, but I want to offer my opposition to the application itself. 4 years ago, when I was traversing the city during my re-election for mayor, I heard it loud and clear from the residents of this community that they had had enough back then of large-scale residential development. 4 years later, I continue to hear it across the city. For those of you that may recall, in September of 2015, I had asked for a moratorium to stop all large-scale residential building. That would have allowed us to study and amend our zoning that I believe is antiquated. I still believe it's antiquated, and I think it puts this board in jeopardy all the time, because you're dealing with an old set of zoning ordinances that no longer apply to the city as it stands today. The city is not growing geographically, but we're becoming more and more dense. Just the other night, I was down on Ocean Avenue where 6 developers at once, I've never seen it, ever, 6 developers at once were proposing a total of close to 1,400 apartment units just down on the ocean front, Ocean Ave and the Boulevard. 1,400 units with another 13,000 proposed for Suffolk Downs, 3,000 on the Revere side. It's become mind-boggling to me, not just as a public official, as a resident of this community, to try to get from Revere Beach down to Broadway. I'm afraid to ask some of these people how long it took them during off hours. If you try going during school hours or rush hour, it's virtually impossible, and we hear this time and time again. You know, we have to balance, I understand, we've got to balance the rights of landowners with the quality of life for our residents. And, you know, to me, you know, going with a moratorium, even today, makes perfect sense, because we need to take a breath and figure out where we're going. To ask for a variance, and granted, this one is going to be withdrawn without prejudice. Personally, I'd like to see it withdrawn with prejudice. But This is going to be withdrawn without prejudice, or it's being asked to be withdrawn without prejudice, so they can go back. I'm not sure. I think it might not even be to amend the plan. It might be for personal reasons. But for the sake of the residents that can't get out of their driveways in the Point of Pines, on the boulevard, at this meeting on Ocean Avenue the other night, I had a woman that spoke there who said that she moved there specifically because she works in Boston and she thought it would be great to be able to live close by to Boston, but in a more suburban feel than downtown Boston. She said, I would have been better off to live in Boston because I can't get out of my driveway in the morning. And while people might blame regional traffic, nobody can tell me that adding 1,400 units here, 3,000 units there, doesn't add to our traffic masses in this city. It certainly doesn't help. It would be counterintuitive to think that adding these units is not going to have an impact. Because national studies, and anyone can go look online, for every one apartment unit, it's at least 1 to 1.5 vehicles. Because people today, look at the rents, $1,800, $2,000, right? You think one person is moving into a one-bedroom apartment? I mean, I know people that are subleasing 2-bedroom apartments. There's 4 people living there. And how many vehicles does that add up to? I mean, we have to take, there's nothing that I'm aware of that says that we have to welcome every single person who wants to move into our city. We have to think about the people who live here now. And so I'm just asking, as somebody, who's lived this, we add all these units and we're stressing a lot of our infrastructure. We're stressing our public safety. We're stressing our roads. We're overcrowding our schools. We spent tens of millions of dollars in new schools over the last 10 or 15 years, and every single one of them is overcrowded right now. Every single school is overcrowded. We get higher insurance rates because people have to pay more insurance. They get into more accidents. We got to really think about the quality of life, and so I'm not sure. I hope I can come back if this project is ever brought back up here, but I really appreciate the latitude that's been extended to me. In case I can't come back, I want the board to know where I personally stand. You think about the beach, right? I don't think any one of us here, and you can debate all day long, global warming and everything. I don't think anyone can deny climate change. Who's more impacted than people on the beach by climate change or people who are in the 100-year flood zone? Who is more impacted than them? So we have to really be cognizant of what's going on when it comes to developing this city. All of you, I'm sure, remember John Jordan. And I'll close with this, Mr. Chairman, and I really appreciate the latitude. And I used to, at the time, 10, 15 years ago, I used to almost, I don't want to say laugh, but, like John Jordan had a saying. He always said, we want to have a controlled economic development plan. And he said it time and time and time again, which I think is what made it. He would talk about it all the time. But 10, 15 years later, I think John Jordan was on the mark. Controlled economic development. That's got to balance residential and commercial. We keep talking about, we need the residential to get the commercial. Where are the commercial? Every restaurant I talk to is struggling. They're on fumes. So think about that, members of the board, as we go forward, talking about these variances, these so-called hardships for these large-scale developments, because they're not hardships at all. This is about profit, pure profit for these developers, most of which do not live in this community. Thank you very much for the latitude, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon, John. Could you state your name and address?
Good afternoon. I'm John Powers, Ward 5 Councilor, 46 Neponset Street, Revere.
Your proponent, this is proponent speaking, right? Are you your opponent?
I'm an opponent, 100%.
Okay.
Okay? I get calls every day from people that complain about somebody putting a 2-family house, variance for 2-family house, for 3-family house. 50 units. I mean, have we lost our sanity here? No difference to you people, but it's, I don't represent people that live in Saugus or Newton or Wellesley or Linfield or anywhere else. I represent people that live in Ward 5 in the city of Revere. And I hear the complaints every single day. They don't want any more housing. I recently voted on the city council for that Bianchi's project down there. By right, they probably could have put 85 or 90 units down there. They put 145 units, shot probably 60 parking spaces. This is America's first public beach. So if we're inviting the public here to park, if a development has shot 60 parking spaces, where are they going to park? They're not going to park on the beach. So I want this board to recognize that I am 100% opposed to this project today, tomorrow, next year, and the year after. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing that, I'm going to ask that the two elected officials did speak. I'm asking if there's any proponents, anyone in favor. Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents, anyone opposed? Keep in mind that their request is to withdraw without prejudice, so I know that they are coming back with a different plan because there's a question on tandem parking. So they will be presenting a new plan in the future. And there is questions on the mechanical garage system that they want to put in there with the 7-foot height, that there's nothing in the books as far as zoning for that type of a mechanism. So that's something that has to be looked at by site plan review, the building department, and then hopefully be put into our zoning, just so that the edification of the people in the audience. So if someone wishes to get up and speak as in an opposition, you may do so. But keep in mind that you will be opposing something in the future or approving something in the near future when they do come back with a different plan.
Thank you.
You're
Alana
welcome.
Zion, 474 Revere Beach Boulevard, resident and trustee of the building. I moved here 17 years ago from New York City, so I was certainly used to a lot of traffic and a lot of noise and all of that. I grew up in Newton. I grew up in, west of the city. So I've been here 17 years. I moved here for exactly one of the reasons why someone else mentioned. It was close to Boston, but it was livable, and there wasn't the traffic. My husband, who is a salesperson who's in the car all day, cannot leave the house until after 9:30 to 10 in the morning, because if he leaves at 7:30, 8 o'clock, he's sitting on from 474 down to the boulevard and then around an Ocean for an hour, over an hour, and then never mind getting into the Ted Williams Tunnel and all of that. So he doesn't then get home until 9 o'clock. So not only traffic and quality of life and all of that, but as a trustee of our building, there are also many people who moved here for quality of life issues who are now planning on selling and leaving because they can't get anywhere. It used to be if you left the house after 5 o'clock to go shopping, you could go right down to the Stop and Shop at, Wonderland? At Wonderland. Well, now if you leave after 2 o'clock, there's no more market at Wonderland. You have to go all the way down to where Furlong Avenue. It can take us 40 minutes to get from Revere Beach Boulevard down to Furlong Avenue. That's insane when it's in your own community. One more minute. So everything that Mr. Rizzo said, I agree with. It's a traffic issue. A 45-unit building is really not only 90 cars, plus their visitors. We're not allowed to park overnight on the beach side because it belongs to DCR. There's no resident permit parking. We don't have any supermarket within walking distance from any of these proposed structures. And so it's not just roads in terms of infrastructure and police and fire and all of that, but it's also things like a walkable supermarket, access to other types of services. So there needs to be a lot more thinking before permits are handed out like candy, and then afterwards your offices receive complaints by the hundreds and thousands because no thought was put into it. So I appreciate your time, and I'm sure I'll be back. I don't have actually any problem with that proposed type of parking structure. I'm very familiar with it because I've been in other countries and other cities and all that where they use it, and it's very effective for the structure itself. I'm more concerned about getting out of my parking lot in the morning and going anywhere, or in the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? Any other one else for opposition? If you'd like to, you can do a raise of hands if you don't want to speak. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, you will be coming back, I would, when they are presenting this again.
Do you know when that might be?
That you'll get public notice, they're doing all other plans. I know there was a personal reason to withdraw this evening, but they will be bringing in other plans from what I've been told.
And just very quickly, do you know, let's say, for example, everything was approved today, did they already have a proposed date of when the hearing was?
Not that I'm aware of, no. Again, the Board of Appeals has to vote on the current zoning that's in place. I suggest that I live I have to travel the beach each day. I leave at 5:15 in the morning so that I don't have to hit the traffic for an hour. Today I left at 6:30, I made it to work at 9 o'clock. So normally I leave very early. However, it's the city council that has to vote on the zoning, not the Board of Appeals. And if the city council cannot get their act together to put a moratorium in place, I think you're going to continue to come and be in front of the Board of Appeals. So please consider that when you're thinking about voting in the future for these city councilors that are coming up on the next election.
Question now comes on granting leave to withdraw without prejudice.
Roll call.
Mr. Bacilli? Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Lopes? Is he yes? Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzoni? Mr. Mazzoni? Is that a yes? And Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Yes. This is continued to June 26th. Excuse me. The next meeting of the board is June 26th.
26th. No further business. Have a good evening.